Welcome to this video where I will share a few tips and tricks to help you increase your profitability. First up, I want you to understand that the profit and loss statement, when you're looking at your statements from a financial standpoint, it really boils down to a basic math problem. You have sales less your cost of goods sold to actually deliver the service, less your overhead expenses, and that equals your profit. And so let's look at it from an actual reporting standpoint. Again, there are only 3 key areas that you can control your profit. Now notice how I'm using the word control, because profit is not some magic, mysterious number that you've got to hold your breath and hope that there's some money left over. It's actually a number that you can control, and there's 3 areas. First, in sales, your cost of goods sold, and your overhead expenses. So there's 3 key areas. I want you to imagine that you are walking up to a control board and you have these knobs that you can turn to the left or to the right, turn it down, turn it up, and think about sales, cost of goods sold, and overhead. You can actually control these numbers in your business if you know where to look and you are intentional about being very proactive about it. Let's dive into sales. So the first area that we can control is our sales. And so one of the ways to increase sales is we can always grow our business, add more employees. We can also increase the average sale of our business. So when we're selling to our customers, instead of just selling one individual service, can we bundle some services to where they're actually buying more each time? Also, we want to sell to our existing customers. Is there a service that you provide where they need you once a month, twice a year? What type of service can you provide to turn your existing customers into repeat customers? Also, you can increase your prices. Don't forget to charge for change orders. Anytime a customer comes back to you after you've agreed on a price and a deadline, and they say, oh, well, while you're helping me, will you go ahead and help me with this as well? That is a change order. You should change the price. That has changed the scope of the work that you both agreed to. So create a plan, a procedure around when will you charge extra when your customer requests extra services. Also, reduce the number of free services that you provide. I'm all for maintaining great customer service, and you want to say yes to your customers as often as you can, but at some point, you're giving away too many free services, and you need to look for ways to have that conversation with your customer and say, yes, I'd be happy to do that. It will cost an extra $500 for me to do that for you. Also, calculate accurate estimates and proposals. This might sound like Captain Obvious, but you'll be surprised at how over time people skip a step instead of going through the actual steps of saying, okay, I'm going to estimate this. I'm going to call the supplier and ask for the price of this. They've got an average in their head, and so they just start using those averages to create the estimates, and before you know it, all of your prices are based on really old numbers. And so really encourage your team to actually take the time to calculate accurate estimates based on your current prices, your current cost, the current time, all of that. Consider all of that. So if you have not evaluated that system, this is a good time to actually test that procedure to make sure that you are providing accurate estimates and proposals. Because if you don't set the price right on the front end, you'll never be profitable. It's really important to get that price accurate on the front end. Also, limit discounts. You should not be giving away discounts like candy. Discounts is not a sales tactic. It is actually a reward that you give your customers. Either you reward them for buying during your slow time, so you're willing to give a discount, or you give a discount because they buy more than one service at a time, or maybe they're part of your VIP customer base. Look for ways to reward customers with discounts, not just offer them like candy to anybody and everybody, because that will lower your sales and lower your profitability. Next up, let's consider the second area, cost of goods sold. This is the second area that we can control our profitability. When we're thinking about cost of goods sold, we've got two different categories. First up is labor. As a service company, labor is going to be one of your highest expenses in the business. And so by taking control of those labor costs, we can really boost profitability. So the first thing to think about is, are there any manual or duplicate systems in your business? I want you to take a step back and really think about all of your employees that are actually delivering the service. Do they have any manual or duplicate systems? Can they save some time when they're delivering the service by eliminating some of the steps? And go back through like your customer journey. How does the employees communicate to the office, communicate to the customer? Look for ways to actually eliminate some of those steps. One of the most common ones that I've seen is technicians out in the field. They have to type their notes for the customer in the actual software so the customer record is complete. Then they have to pick up the phone and call the office to get additional information, and they usually repeat what they just typed into the software. Then they have to handwrite on their timesheet the customer name, how long we're there, was it a service or an install. They have to name all that information. So go back through and look for ways to eliminate the need for your money producing employees to reduce or eliminate any of those manual duplicate systems. Because if you can make it to where they're only investing the time in typing it in one place, and then the office can review the software if they need to, and then the timesheets can be pulled from the software as well, you have streamlined a system and you can actually drastically reduce your labor cost. Also, look for better ways to communicate between the departments. Most departments operate in silos where they are very protective of their information and their numbers and their goals. And so you might have one department that's got all of this information. Well, then another department has to manually track their own information. Look for ways to actually eliminate any of those gaps between the departments, so that way you've got great communication across all departments, because you're one company, and so you want all of the departments to have the information that they need to be successful instead of having a bunch of duplicate systems in the business. Make sure you assign the right person to the right customer to the right job. This can drastically improve your labor cost as well, because you want to make sure that they have the right skill set to actually deliver that service in a timely manner. Look for ways to reduce waste. Now, I'm not talking about reducing pay. I'm definitely not talking about cutting corners. I'm talking about take a step back, look at what are all the steps. Is there a certain amount of waste in the time that's being spent on the customers? Just step back and be very honest with it. Also look for, are there a lot of mistakes being made? Anytime you make a promise to deliver a service by a certain amount of time and you do not deliver it the first time the right way, then that's a mistake. Anytime you've got to go back and fix things, then that is a mistake, and that's very wasteful. So look for ways to eliminate all of that in your business. When you're thinking about waste, you and your team might be thinking, oh, well, it's only 5 minutes. How much could that really cost me? Well, here's the math. You've got 5 employees that provide services to your customers. They all, could be a bit more efficient with their 5 minutes a day. You're working 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year. They earn about $20 on average per hour. That's a $130,000 impact on the bottom line. Your business, if you're not careful and y'all waste 5 minutes per employee per day, that's $130,000 waste from your business. What could $130,000 do for your business if it fell all the way down to the bottom line and then turned into cash? What could you buy with $130,000? Could you have grown your business by paying cash for assets instead of having to borrow money? What kind of impact could $130,000 have on your business? This is a perfect example of how profitability is made up from being very careful and having a profit plan to where nothing seeps out and you do not have any profit leaks. 5 minutes per employee per day can really add up. Next up, we have cost of goods sold. So we're staying in that second control of cost of goods sold, but we're going to focus in on the equipment and materials that we use delivering the service. So first up, you want to consider shopping around. If you have not done any price shopping with your suppliers, now might be the time to consider it. I'm not a big fan of only basing my decision on price alone, because you definitely want your suppliers to have your back when something does not go right. So you want to shop around, but you want to consider the price and then also their customer service. And then when you're thinking about shopping around, look for ways to consolidate to just one supplier. So you can go to that supplier and say, hey, I'm buying all of this from 3 or 4 different companies. What kind of price break will you give me if I make a commitment over the next year to buy it all from you? You might be surprised. You might be able to shave off a few extra percentage points just by consolidating to one supplier. Also, look for ways to reduce waste with your equipment and materials. So this is going to be more of an inventory control. And so you'll want to make sure that there's no waste from an employee theft standpoint. And you also don't want there to be waste because some of the equipment or materials, they got damaged either in the warehouse or in the truck, or before it was actually used to deliver the service to the customer. And just helping your employees better understand how to protect that inventory, make sure it stays safe and in working order, so that way you can actually use that material to deliver the project, the service that you've promised to your customers. So when you're thinking about profitability, one of the easiest ways to increase profitability without selling more is to focus in on this section. Your cost of goods sold, this is where you can really improve efficiency. When you understand how much time it really takes to deliver a service, how much really does it cost from a material standpoint. When you really dive in and really understand these numbers, you're more likely to price your services right. You're more likely to boost profitability without selling one more service. So here are some tips to reduce your cost of goods sold. I need for you to take the time to actually measure the results. You want to actually compare the estimate to the actual. Take the time to look at last week or the previous month's jobs, the projects, the customer list. Actually look at that information to determine how much did you estimate in your cost of goods sold before you started that project. And then now that the project is done, how much did you actually spend? You will be so surprised at how much information comes from this very simple exercise. And the cool thing is, this is not an exercise that you have to do every single week for the rest of your life. Once you get back into this mode and you study the numbers, you'll be able to identify some waste that's happening. You'll be able to fix it. And then maybe once a quarter or once every 6 months, depending on the changes that you make in your business, you can review this information. But you can kind of put bowling alley bumpers down on your business based on this information, where as long as you stay within this range, everything should be good. One of the cool things about diving into comparing the estimate to the actual, let's say that you pull 10 projects and you look through the projects, and when you step back, you start to scratch your head and think, wow, on every single one of these projects, we had to spend more on materials than we expected. And on every single one of them, it was for a different reason. It was a reason that we really could not have predicted. They all had unique circumstances. So instead of trying to hyper focus on predicting the future and anticipating that, why don't you just accept that trend and add a miscellaneous 10% of materials to every job? And then that will help you maintain that profitability, because once it's happening pretty often, then that's a trend for your business. You can capture that, update your estimating process. You're more likely to have your estimates turn into actual numbers, and you'll have profit that you can work with like you planned. Also, take the time to calculate profitability. It's very tempting to only look at it from an entire company standpoint, but I encourage you to dive into looking at it by department, by service, by job, project, customer, employee. Take the time to dive in. When you're first looking at it, if you are increasing your sales, but your profit is not increasing too, then start off by looking at your departments. It's very possible that one department is really knocking it out the park, but another one is not doing well. And so the one that is doing well, that's performing more than you expected, it's masking a problem in another department. So you'll know you just need to work in on that department that's not performing well. And then if you're not able to identify by department, you would dive deeper into by service, dive deeper into the job, dive deeper into the employee or the customer to help you really narrow in on why you're not as profitable as you would expect with your cost of goods sold. So the next control that we're going to talk about is overhead. So when we are thinking about our overhead expenses, think about ways that you can advertise to your existing customer base. It's very tempting to just go out and look for new customers, but your existing customer base already knows, likes, and trusts you. It is going to be cheaper for you to do a direct mail campaign or an email campaign, something to your existing customer base, instead of just going out and look for new customers. So spend part of your advertising budget on your existing customers as well as on new customers, and you'll get more bang for your buck on your existing customer base. Also, review all of your expenses every quarter. Even if you're signing the checks, you're in a different mindset when you have the check in front of you and you're signing the check versus actually stepping back, looking at the company as a whole, and really looking at those financial reports to see, do you have any charges that you just no longer use? It's quite possible that you've got some of those expenses hiding in your overhead expenses. Also, look for all your systems from an administrative standpoint. Do you have any repetitive tasks? Are there any manual systems that are in the office? When we think about growing our business, we're always defaulting to, we just need to hire more people. Well, hiring more people that are going to generate revenue for the business is one thing, but hiring more people that are going to work in the office as an administrative overhead cost, that's another. There's so much technology out there that instead of just defaulting to hiring more people, look for ways to automate those repetitive tasks. Can you import information from the bank, or can you import information from your vendors and suppliers? Look for ways to automate those tasks and convert from a paper system to a software system. Go paperless, so that way when the employees type in the information, it's automatically pushed to the office staff where they are reviewing, not data entry. So just look for ways to really automate those tasks. When we automated our task and converted from paper to paperless in our HVAC company, it made a tremendous impact in the business. We reduced so many errors because instead of having 2 or 3 people touching that same piece of paper, I guess it was 3 people because you had someone actually creating the invoice for the customer. We had someone in the office typing the information in, and then someone always dreaded filing the piece of paper in the customer's file folder. Well, by going paperless, we no longer needed anyone to file. So you not only got rid of that need, but also got rid of the not so fun task of filing. Then you had a system to where you're just reviewing what the employees typed in instead of actually manually typing it all in all at one time. So look for ways to remove and automate some of those tasks in your business. Definitely limit long-term contracts. And when I say long-term, I'm thinking more than 12 months. So if the marketing consultant company says, oh, well, in order for you to see results, you've got to sign a 3-year contract. No, do not sign that contract, because if they really could do what they promised to do, then you would see results after 3 or 6 months and you would be begging them to extend the contract. So look for contracts with your vendors that are either month to month or at the most 12 months, because that will give you a whole lot of flexibility when the economy or customers or anything changes in your business. The best way to be very flexible is to not be bogged down by a whole lot of financial commitments that are usually hiding in your vendor contracts. So when you're thinking about changes in your business, sometimes we wait for the perfect time. Oh, I need to wait for my slow season. I need to wait till I've got a whole week's worth of time to invest in this. I need to read 10 books and attend a week's worth of training. No, you don't need to do any of that. You can start right now. You can make small improvements in your business that can have a big impact on your business. Here's an example. We're not going to increase sales at all. You're going to maintain the same level of sales. In this example, $1 million. We're going to lower our labor costs by 1%, just 1%. Material costs, lower it by 1%. Overhead, we're going to lower it by 1%. What is the impact to your profit and your cash flow by just walking up to the controls and making a 1% difference? What kind of impact does that have on your bottom line? If you're pretty good at math, then you can quickly do the 3% change. And instead of having a $60,000 net profit, you would increase it to $90,000 profit. So you will be so surprised at how easy it is to control profitability. What could your business do with an extra $30,000? Again, that can pay cash for assets that you need. That could help you pay down some of your loans. Actually, that might be money that you need to take out of the business as distributions as a reward for the risk that you've taken as the business owner. Little small improvements will have a big impact on your business. In fact, if you improve your business by just 1% every day, after 70 days, your business will be twice as good. Speaking of twice as good, we were able to double our profitability in our HVAC company because we were able to really make those small changes in our business, be very mindful of when we did spend money, was it really intentional? Did it serve a major purpose in us being very efficient and taking care of our customer? We were able to double profitability while also maintaining our quality control standards. We did not cut corners so we could increase profitability. We stepped up our game in some areas and we actually improved our quality control standards. We also did not sacrifice our reputation, because when you improve customer service, your reputation automatically grows too. And so we were able to double profitability with also creating a great culture. So when you have a great culture of employees that genuinely that love and care about the business long term, You're naturally going to improve customer service, which will naturally improve reputation, all while maintaining your quality control standards. You magically double profitability. It is the most beautiful thing. I've seen it happen in my own company, and you can do it too. You simply have to, when you're thinking about profit leaks, first you got to pinpoint what the problem is. Do not, I repeat, do not think that just selling more services is going to fix your problems. It will not fix your problems, because a lot of these profit leaks will only get worse if you pour more sales on it. You need to pinpoint what is the real profit leak in the business, then take steps to plug and stop that profit leak, then prevent it from happening again. The last thing you want to do is allow it to fester again to where it pops up again next year. So you want to implement a system that prevents it from happening again in the future. If you would like more information, I have created a little mini training course where it comes with a cheat sheet where you can pinpoint and identify which level is the problem for your profit leaks. Then once you identify that level, I have an individual training video that only relates to that level, where you can dive in and really learn some of my best tips and tricks for plugging that profit leak. So instead of having to sit through hours and hours and hours of education, this is a super focused training to help you pinpoint that problem. I also include tips on how to fix it and how to prevent it from happening again. So look in the details below this video and you will see information on how to download this free little mini training course. I promise you it's worth every second of your time. Thank you so much for watching. As always, please help me spread the word with this information. I want you to help me with my mission of teaching business owners how to better understand their business finances. Thank you so much.